म्यूट चालू છે. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Thank you.
So sorry for the inconvenience. सुबह lecture हुआ.
बिल्कुल, that is all right. बिल्कुल कोई बात नहीं. ये technical glitches होते रहते. So don't worry. That's okay.
So we shall wait for a few minutes for some of the participants to join in, and then we shall start.
Yes. Who's going to moderate? I have a PPT sent over. तो
Yes,
वो
sir.
PPT को share करेगा? Okay. All right. And मुझे नाम बता देना so that you know I can have a conversation जो भी है.
Okay, so I'll be the moderator for today's session, and after a few people join in, I'll start with the introduction.
Okay, and who would be managing the PPT? You would be doing it.
Yes, sir. Primarily, Shruth sir will be managing it. In case if some help is needed, then I'll share the screen.
Are you please share the screen because I'm not going to do it from here. So one after the other, you know, you keep changing the.
Okay.
यही वाला जिससे बात हो रही थी
All the participants are requested to kindly mute
वही
themselves.
चालू है तू देखो इस पे ध्यान देना है हाँ मुझे चालू नहीं हुई पूरी
Suraj, kindly mute yourself.
रिन्यूअल करवाने से आ जाएगा
Sir, I think we have. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
So, sir, I think we can start with the session.
Please.
Hello, everyone. I am Parinas Fanebanda, a student of 7th semester, and I shall be the moderator for today's session on ADR mechanism in corporate matters being described from the Indian legal context by our guest speaker, Advocate Nagesh Sood. I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Sood. Talking about his educational background, Sir has completed his BSc Honours in Physics from Delhi University. He has pursued his bachelor's in law from Aligarh Muslim University, has further on done his LLM in environmental law from Gujarat University, and has also pursued his PG diploma in human rights from Aligarh Muslim University as well. Being an eminent practitioner and possessing an experience of nearly 30 years in the field of law, Sir has a varied amplitude of knowledge and a keen intellect in various subjects of law. Currently practicing in Gujarat High Court, Sir has his previous professional experiences working as an additional public prosecutor as well as an assistant government pleader in Gujarat High Court. Apart from gracing his presence as a panelist for different corporate and banking sectors, Sir is also closely working for an NGO called SATH, which deals with prevention of suicide. Not only this, but also Sir is a part of a Tech Indian campaign to produce basic education for the underprivileged children and also working with Gujarat State Legal Services Authority for providing free legal aid consultations. Sir is well known for his passion for learning and his I'm sorry, Nikita, can you please mute yourself?
नीट के तैयारी तो वो उनके लिए वहाँ फ्लैट लिए उनके लिए गाड़ी है
Nikita, kindly
सिर्फ
mute
उनके रहाई
yourself.
के लिए
Sorry for the inconvenience. Sir is well known for his passion for learning and his remarkable contributions in the field of environment law as well as labor laws by succeeding numerous public interest litigation as an unbiased practitioner. Sir has remained a counsel of more than 90 reported judgments in various law reviews. Sir, I, on behalf of Center of Corporate Governance and Corporate Training, established in the United World School of Law and working under the guidance of Professor Shrut Brahmbhatt and Professor Nitesh Nanavati as a research associate, cordially invite you to address today's session.
Thank you very much, Parnas, for a very, very overwhelming introduction.
Thank you, sir.
A very good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all are doing fine and absolutely safe at home with your near and dear ones. I'm indeed very grateful to Professor Malay Patel and Professor Shrut Brahmbhatt and the team from United World School of Law for inviting me over for today's webinar and talk about today's topic, which is alternative dispute resolution mechanism in corporate matters in the context of Indian legal system. I would like to begin this talk with a quote from Abraham Lincoln, which says, I quote, "Discourage litigation, persuade your neighbors to compromise. Wherever for the peacemaker, the lawyer has superior opportunity of being good man. There will be business enough." The past few years have seen a flurry of reforms in various laws to enhance ease of doing business in India. Numerous old and feeble laws have been repealed or replaced with robust enactments, and new laws have been introduced to draw a parallel to the altered national and international economic environment. There is a common overriding objective that the plethora of recent legislation and amendments are trying to achieve, that is early resolution of dispute, especially in commercial matters. The concept of conflict management through alternative dispute resolution, that is ADR in short, has introduced a new mechanism of dispute resolution that is non-adversarial. A dispute is basically lis inter partes, and the justice dispensation system in India has found an alternative to adversarial litigation in the form of ADR mechanism. New methods of dispute resolution such as ADR facilitate parties to deal with the dispute in more efficient and cost-effective manner with increased efficacy. Next slide, please. The processes also have the advantage of providing parties with the opportunity to reduce hostility, regain a sense of control, gain acceptance of the outcome, resolve conflict in a peaceful manner, and achieve a greater sense of justice in each individual case. The resolution of disputes takes place usually in private and is more viable, economic, and efficient. Now, ADR is generally classified into at least 4 types. That is negotiation, mediation, arbitration, and conciliation. Let us know as to what is the legal framework we have in India. We know that Article 39 of the Constitution of India directs the state to secure legal promotes on the basis of equal opportunity and to provide free legal aid by civilization of needs. And so, that opportunities for securing justice are not denied to any citizen by reason of economic or other disabilities. This trial as being implicit in Article 21 of the Constitution in the case of Husainara Khatun versus State of Bihar, reported in AIR 1979, page 1306. To give effect to the said mandate, Parliament has recognized various alternative dispute resolution, that is ADR mechanisms like arbitration, conciliation, mediation, and Lok Adalats to strengthen the judicial system. The provisions which are involved for where can be invoked for ADR are Section 89 of the Code of Civil Procedure 1908, which expressly provides for settlement of disputes through ADR. Section 89(1) of the Code provides that where it appears to the court that there exist elements of settlement which may be acceptable to the parties, the court shall formulate the terms of settlement and give them to the parties for their observations, and after receiving the observations of the parties, the court may reformulate the terms of possible settlement and refer the same for arbitration, conciliation, judicial settlement, including settlement through Lok Adalat or mediation. Section 89(2) of the Code provides that where a dispute has been so referred for arbitration or conciliation, the provisions of Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 shall apply as if the proceedings for arbitration or conciliation were referred for settlement under the provisions of that act. To Lok Adalat, the court shall refer the same to the Lok Adalat in accordance with the provisions of Section 21 of Legal Services Authorities Act 1987, and all other provisions of that act shall apply in respect of disputes so referred to the Lok Adalat. For mediation, the court shall effect a compromise between the parties and shall follow such procedure as may be prescribed. Under CPC Order 10 Rule 1A of the Code, further provides that after recording the admissions and denial, the court shall direct the parties to the suit to opt either mode of the settlement outside the court as may be opted by the parties. The court contemplates recourse to ADR in several other circumstances. Order 32A, which pertains to suits relating to matters concerning the family, imposes a duty on the court to assist the parties in arriving at a settlement in respect of their dispute and empowers it to secure the assistance of a welfare expert for such purpose. Order 27 Rule 5B mandates that in every suit or proceeding to which the government or a public officer acting in his official capacity is a party, it shall be the duty of the court to make in the first instance every endeavor where it is possible to do so consistently with the nature and circumstances of the case to assist the parties in arriving at a settlement in respect of the subject matter of the suit. The other legislations that provide for ADR are Legal Services Authority Act 1987 and court fees laws providing the refund of court fees, Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the Special Marriage Act 1954, and Family Courts Act 1984. Then there is Section 442 of the Companies Act 2013 and the Companies Mediation and Conciliation Rules 2016. Chapter 3A, more particularly Section 12A of the Commercial Courts Act, Commercial Division and Commercial Appellate Division of the High Courts Act 2015, and Commercial Courts Pre-Institution Mediation and Settlement Rules 2018. Section 12A(5) provides that the settlement arrived at under the section shall have the same status and effects as if it is an arbitral award on agreed terms under subsection 4 of Section 30 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Section 32G of the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act 2016. Now I will touch upon various dispute resolution systems that are used by the corporates for settling their disputes. The first one being arbitration. Arbitration is an adjudicated process in which the parties present their disputes to a neutral third party arbitrator for a decision. The arbitrator has greater flexibility than a judge in the conventional court proceedings in terms of procedure and rules of evidence. The arbitration process is similar to the litigation process, and a valid arbitration must be preceded by an arbitration agreement which should be valid as per the Indian Contract Act 1872. The parties to an agreement must have the capacity to enter into a contract in terms of Section 11 and 12 of the said Act. Apart from the statutory requirement of a written agreement, existing or future disputes and an intention to refer them to arbitration, the other attributes which must be present for an agreement to be considered an arbitration agreement are: it must contemplate for the decision of an arbitral tribunal will be binding on the parties to the agreement. Next, it must contemplate that substantive rights of the parties will be determined by the arbitral tribunal. Also, it must be intended to be enforceable by law. Now we see what are the types of arbitration. Majorly, there are two types: voluntary arbitration and compulsory arbitration. Voluntary arbitration implies that the two contending parties, unable to compromise by themselves, agree to submit their dispute or conflict to an impartial authority whose decision they are ready to accept. The compulsory arbitration is one where the parties are required to accept arbitration without any willingness on their part. Forms of arbitration. Institutional arbitration. The forms are institutional arbitration, ad hoc arbitration, statutory arbitration, domestic arbitration, international arbitration. Now we would first throw light on institutional arbitration. The contract between the parties often contains an arbitration clause which designates an institution to conduct the arbitration process under pre-established set of rules. The examples of such institutions are Mumbai Center for International Arbitration, which is very famously known as MCI, Indian Institute of Arbitration and Mediation, Delhi. Then there is the International Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution, New Delhi. Now, what are the advantages of institutional arbitration? The advantages of institutional arbitration, next slide please, that there is an availability of pre-established and well-tried rules and procedures which assure that arbitration will be smooth. Then there is availability of administrative and technical assistance. There is availability of panel of qualified and experienced arbitrators. Physical facilities and support services for arbitrations are available. The disadvantages are, it is a slow and rigid process. There is high administrative fees for services and use of facilities involved. And there is institutions bureaucracy may lead to added cost and delays. Ad hoc arbitration. Ad hoc arbitration is a proceeding constructed by the parties themselves with rules created solely for that specific case. The parties make their own arrangement with respect to all aspects of the arbitration, including the law which will be applied, the rules under which the arbitration will be carried out, the method of selection of the arbitrator, the place where arbitration will be held, the language, and finally, and most importantly, the scope and issues to be resolved by means of arbitration. Ad hoc proceedings can be more flexible, suitable, cost-effective, and faster than an institutional arbitration proceeding. However, there are some disadvantages of ad hoc arbitration, which are enumerated here. There is a high party control, which entails the need of party cooperation right up to the end, since there are no pre-established set of rules. The parties run risk of drafting inoperative arbitral clauses. Clauses are often drafted in great detail, which are rarely workable and are susceptible to different interpretations, leading to litigation. The arbitral award itself may be rendered unenforceable if wrong procedure is prescribed and followed. It suffers from lack of administrative supervision through scheduled hearings, fees, engagement of translators, etc. And it suffers from lack of facilities and infrastructure which is available in institutional arbitration. Now, briefly, we'll talk about statutory arbitration and domestic arbitration. Statutory arbitration, there is a large number of central and state acts which specifically provide for arbitration in respect of disputes arising on matters covered by these enactments. Some of the instances are enactments like the Electricity Act and the Electricity Supply Act, in which there is an arbitration clause, and the view of the position that such an arbitration would also be governed by the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Domestic arbitration, the expression domestic arbitration has not been defined, in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, an arbitration held in India, the outcome of which is a domestic award under Part 1 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 is a domestic arbitration. A domestic arbitration is one which takes place in India wherein the dispute is decided in accordance with substantive law of India. Now, we'll talk in detail about how the arbitration takes place under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. I would refer to certain sections. Part 1 restates the law and practice of arbitration in India. It defines the stages of arbitration like the arbitration agreement, the appointment of the arbitral tribunal, the conduct of the arbitration, the award, and the enforcement of the awards. Once the parties have agreed to refer to a dispute to arbitration, neither of them can unilaterally withdraw from the arbitral process. The arbitral tribunal shall make an award which shall be final and binding on the parties and persons claiming under them respectively, and such award, unless set aside by the court of a competent jurisdiction, shall be enforceable under the code in the same manner as if it were a decree of the court. Now, arbitration agreement. In the arbitration agreement, there is a condition precedent for the exercise of power to appoint an arbitrator under Section 11 of Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. In cases where there is an arbitration clause, it is obligatory for the court to refer the parties to arbitration in terms of their arbitration agreement. The Act does not, however, oust the jurisdiction of the civil court to decide the dispute in case where parties to the arbitration agreement do not take appropriate steps as contemplated under Section 8 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. Similarly, the court is to refer the parties to arbitration only in respect to a matter which is subject matter of an arbitration agreement. This section is attracted to only arbitral disputes which the arbitrator is competent or empowered to decide. Now, I will give you an illustration that if the parties agree to refer the question of winding up a company to arbitration, however, the power to order winding up of a company is conferred upon the Company Court under the Companies Act. As the arbitrator has no jurisdiction to wind up a company, the court cannot make such a reference under Section 8. The next illustration is, if the parties have agreed to refer the question as to whether probate should be granted or not to arbitration, since the judgment in probate suit is under the Indian Succession Act and is judgment in rem, such question cannot be referred to arbitration. Now, what is the composition of an arbitral tribunal? The arbitral tribunal has been defined by Section 2D of the 1996 Act to mean a sole arbitrator or a panel of arbitrators appointed in accordance with the provisions of Sections 10 and 11 of the Act. The number of arbitrators should not be an even number. An arbitrator must be independent and impartial. Arbitration is a matter of consent, and the parties are generally free to structure their agreement as they deem fit. The parties have been given maximum freedom not only to choose their arbitrators, but also to determine the number of arbitrators constituting the arbitral tribunal. The appointment of an arbitrator should be in accordance with the agreement of the parties, or in default in accordance with the mechanism provided under Section 11 of the Act. The power of the Chief Justice under Section 11 to appoint the arbitral tribunal is a judicial power, since the adjudication is involved in constituting an arbitral tribunal. and the order passed by the Chief Justice of the High Court under Section 11 is a judicial order. The Chief Justice, while passing an order under Section 11, has to look into the following aspects: that whether he has the jurisdiction to make such an order, whether there is an arbitration agreement, whether the applicant is a party to the arbitration agreement, whether the conditions for exercise of power have been fulfilled, and if the arbitrator is to be appointed, the fitness of the person to be appointed. The arbitral, we now go to jurisdiction of arbitral tribunal. The arbitral tribunal is vested with the power to rule on its own jurisdiction. That is, it can decide and pass an order as to whether the arbitral tribunal has jurisdiction under the arbitration agreement to decide any dispute. For that purpose, the arbitration clause shall be treated as an agreement independent of the other terms of the agreement, even though it is part of the said agreement. Now, how the arbitral proceedings are conducted? The relevant sections are sections 18 to 27 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. First is Rule Section 18, which says that there has to be equal treatment of parties. Section 19 talks about establishing procedural autonomy by recognizing parties' freedom to lay down the rules of procedure. Section 20 prescribes and gives right to the parties to agree on the place of arbitration. The arbitral tribunal is not bound by the procedure set out by code. It is for the parties to agree on a procedure. And if the parties are silent, then the arbitrator has to prescribe the procedure. However, the procedure is so prescribed should be in consonance with the principles of natural justice. Now, how an arbitral award has to be passed, the relevant sections are Section 28, which pertains to the determination of the rules applicable to the substance of the disputes. Section 29 provides that the decision-making procedure, what is the decision-making procedure within the tribunal? Section 30 relates to settlement of dispute by parties themselves and states that with the agreement of the parties, the arbitration tribunal may use mediation, conciliation, and other procedures at any time during the arbitral proceedings to encourage settlement. Section 31 refers to the form and content of arbitral award. Unlike the 1940 Act, the arbitral award has to state reasons upon which it is based unless the parties have agreed that no reasons are to be given, or the award is an arbitral award on agreed terms under Section 30. Section 32 pertains to determination of the arbitral proceedings, and Section 33 relates to the corrections and interpretation of an award, as also to making of additional awards. Now, recourse against the arbitral award can be done under Section 34, which provides for recourse against the arbitral award on the limited grounds for setting aside an arbitral award are the incapacity of the party, invalidity of agreement, absence of proper notice to the party, award beyond scope of reference, illegality in the composition of arbitral tribunal or an arbitral procedure, dispute being non-arbitrable, and award being in conflict with public policy. Now, how do we give finality and enforcement of awards? Section 35 provides that, subject to provisions of Part 1 of the Act, an arbitral award shall become final and binding on the parties claiming under them respectively, The word final with respect to an award as used in this section is not to be confused with the expression final award. Section 36 of the 1996 Act renders an arbitral award enforceable in the same manner as if it were a decree, if no challenge is preferred against it within the time prescribed for making a challenge, or when upon a challenge being preferred, it has been dismissed. The fact that an arbitral award is enforceable as if it were a decree does not make the arbitral proceedings a suit. The arbitral award becomes immediately enforceable without any further act of the court once the time expires for challenging the award under Section 34 of the 1996 Act. Now we talk about mediation and conciliation. Under the civil procedure, ADR and mediation rules, mediation has been defined as the process by which a mediator appointed by parties or by the court facilitates discussion between parties, assist parties in identifying issue in dispute, reduce misunderstandings, clarifying priorities, generating options, in an attempt to solve the dispute and emphasizing that it is the party's own responsibility for making decisions which affect them. Conciliation under the mediation rules has been defined as the process by which a conciliator who is appointed by parties or by court applies the provisions of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act insofar as they relate to conciliation, and in particular make proposals for settlement of the dispute and formulate or reformulate the terms of a possible settlement. The scope of conciliation and mediation may vary, but both depend on the will of the parties. The conciliator brings the parties to an agreement through negotiation after the dispute has arisen, and agreement is an award on agreed terms under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act and is executable like a decree. On the other hand, a mediator assists the disputants to reach a negotiable settlement which results in a signed agreement which is called settlement. The court has to pass a decree on the basis of settlement for the same to be executed as a decree. The ground rules of mediation include neutrality. Next slide, please. The mediator should be neutral, having no interest with the dispute or either party. Next is self-determination, which means each party makes free and informed choices. The mediator is therefore responsible only in the conduct of the process, while the parties control the outcome. Confidentiality. It is of the essence of a successful mediation that the parties should be able to reveal all relevant matters without an apprehension that the disclosure may subsequently be used against them as well, maybe in any other proceedings or otherwise. There has to be a fair process. It is crucial that the parties feel that they are being treated fairly and their concerns are being heard. It is a voluntary process. Mediation is possible only with the consent of parties who get bound once they sign the settlement arrived at during mediation. Now, what are the Model Civil Procedure Mediation Rules 2003? I'll just briefly talk about some of the important rules. While there is no comprehensive statute governing mediation in India, the Supreme Court has recommended the High Courts to adopt, with or without modification, the Model Civil Procedure Mediation Rules framed by the Law Commission of India in the case of Salem Advocates Bar Association versus Union of India. The rules provide for the procedure for appointment of a mediator, the qualifications of the mediator and procedure for mediation. Rule 12 provides that the mediator is not bound by the Evidence Act and the Code, but shall be guided by principles of fairness and justice, having regard to the rights and obligations of the parties, usages of trade, if any, and the nature of the dispute. Rule 16 describes the role of mediator and states that the mediator shall attempt to facilitate voluntary resolution of the dispute by the parties and communicate the view of each party to the other, assist them in identifying issues, reducing misunderstandings, and clarifying priorities, exploring areas of compromise, and generating options in an attempt to resolve the dispute, emphasizing that it is the responsibility of the parties to take decisions which affect them. He shall not impose any terms of settlement on the parties. Rule 17 emphasizes that the parties alone are responsible for taking decision, and that the mediator will not and cannot impose any settlement or give any warranty that the mediation will result in a settlement. The rules have strict provisions with regard to confidentiality of the mediation process. Rule 11 enables the mediator to meet or communicate with each of the parties separately. Rule 20 restrains the mediator from disclosing to the other party any information given to him by a party subject to a specific condition that it be kept confidential, and mandates the mediator and the parties to maintain full confidentiality in respect to the mediation process. Rule 20 further requires the parties not to rely on or introduce the said information to any other proceeding as to views or admissions expressed by a party in course of the mediation proceedings, confidential documents, notes, drafts, or information obtained during mediation, proposals made or views expressed by the mediator. The fact that a party had or had not indicated his willingness to accept a proposal for settlement. Rule 21 limits the communication between the mediator and the court to inform the court about the failure of a party to attend, and with the consent of the parties, his assessment that the case is not suited for settlement through mediation or that the parties have settled their disputes. So he only acts as a communicator with the court. Rule 24 provides for the reduction of the agreement between the parties into a written settlement or an agreement duly signed by the parties. Rule 25 says the settlement agreement is to be forwarded to the court by the mediator with a covering letter. The court would pass the decree in terms of the settlement. And finally, the Rule 27 lays down ethical standards of a mediator. Now we talk about Section 442 of the Companies Act 2013, which is one of the recent enactments that perhaps covers a large number of commercial disputes under the Companies Act 2013. Section 442 of the Companies Act provides for the ADR mechanism vis-a-vis mediation and conciliation as possible options for parties involved at any stage of the proceedings. The Companies Mediation and Conciliation Rules 2016, that is MNC rules, have been notified by the government under the powers conferred by Section 442, read with Section 469 of the Companies Act. The MNC rules lay down the procedure for disposal of the matters by adopting ADR mechanisms by parties at any stage of the proceeding before the central government, tribunal, or appellate tribunal. The National Company Law Tribunal, that is NCLT, is a tribunal constituted under Section 408 of the Companies Act, and similarly the Appellate Tribunal is the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, that is NCLAT, constituted under Section 410 of the Companies Act. The mediation and conciliation under the MNC rules, some of the important rules are Rule 6, which provides for application for appointment of a mediator or conciliator and makes it mandatory for central government or the NCLT or the NCLAT to refer the matter pending before it for mediation and conciliation upon an application made in a form along with a requisite fee. The ADR mechanisms of mediation or conciliation can be initiated either upon consent of the parties or where the court feels that there is a scope for settlement under ADR mechanism. Rule 11 provides for the procedure for disposal of the matter and mandates each party to provide to the mediator or conciliator as well as exchange amongst them a brief memorandum setting forth the issues which need to be resolved within 10 days before a session or shorter period at the discretion of the mediator and conciliator. Rule 14 provides that if a party fails to attend a session or a meeting fixed by the mediator or conciliator deliberately or willfully for 2 consecutive times, the mediation or conciliation shall be deemed to have failed. There is no automatic failure of mediation and conciliation under the ANC Act, that is Arbitration and Conciliation Act. Rule 19 provides for time limit of 3 months for completion of mediation or conciliation, and on expiry of 3 months, the mediation or conciliation process shall stand terminated. However, upon application by the mediator or conciliator or any party to the proceedings, the period of mediation or conciliation may be extended by such period not exceeding 3 months. There is no time limit for conciliation under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. Rule 18 of the mediation rules says that when mediation expires after 60 days from the date fixed for first appearance. The mediation may be further extended by not more than 30 days either suo motu or upon the request by the mediator or the parties. Rule 25 provides that the settlement agreement signed in conciliation shall be forwarded to the central government or the NCLT or NCLAT as the case may be. Rule 26 provides that upon satisfaction of the central government or the NCLT or NCLAT regarding settlement of dispute, it shall pass an order in accordance with terms thereof. Rule 29 states that the party shall not initiate any arbitral or judicial proceedings in respect of a matter that is the subject matter of the mediation or conciliation, except where such proceedings are necessary for protecting the rights of the parties. Now we'll talk about 2 landmark cases. One which I just now referred. One is Salim Advocate Bar Association versus Union of India, which is reported in AIR 2005 Supreme Court, page 3353, wherein the Supreme Court observed in relation to mediation rules under the Code of Civil Procedure. It observed that a doubt has been expressed in relation to Clause D of Section 89(2) of the Code on the question as to finalization of the terms of the compromise. The question is whether the terms of the compromise are to be finalized by or before the mediator, or by or before the court. It is evident that all the four alternatives, namely arbitration, conciliation, judicial settlement, including settlement through the Lok Adalat and mediation, are meant to be action of persons or institutions outside the court and not before the court. Order 10 Rule 1C speaks of the conciliation, the actual mediation conciliation. Clause D of the section 89.2 only means that when mediation succeed and parties agree to the terms of settlement, the mediator will report to the court, and the court, after giving notice and hearing to the parties, effect the compromise and pass a decree in accordance with the with the terms of settlement accepted by the parties. Further, in this view, there is no question of the court which refers the matter to mediation and conciliation being debarred from hearing the matter where settlement is not arrived at. The judge who makes the reference only considers the limited question as to whether there are reasonable grounds to expect that there will be a settlement. On that ground, he cannot be treated to be disqualified to try the suit afterwards if no settlement is arrived at between the parties. The next landmark case is the Afron Infrastructure and others versus Cherian Worky Construction and others, reported in 2010, 8 Supreme Court cases, 24, page 24, wherein the Supreme Court held that Section 89 starts with the words, where it appears to the court that there exist elements of a settlement. This clearly shows that cases which are not suited for ADR process should not be referred under Section 89 of the court. The court has to form an opinion that a case is one that is capable of being referred to and settlement through ADR process, having regard to the tenor of the provisions of Rule 1A of the Order 10 of the Code. The civil court should invariably refer cases to ADR process. Next slide, please. Only in certain recognized excluded categories of cases, it may choose not to refer to an ADR process where the case is unsuited for reference to any of the ADR processes. The court will have to briefly record the reasons for not resorting to any of the settlement procedures prescribed under Section 89 of the Code. Therefore, having a hearing from completion of pleadings to consider recourse to ADR process under Section 89 of the Code is mandatory, but actual reference to an ADR process in all cases is not mandatory. Where the case falls under an excluded category, there need not be reference to ADR process. In all other cases, reference to ADR process is a must. Now, these two landmark cases not only open the doors for mediation and conciliation by the court, as before these judgments, the courts were unable to actually refer the cases for ADR mechanism which are provided under the Act. The sections literally provided that the settlement has to be drawn by the court first, and thereafter the courts can refer the matter for ADR, which was a very difficult proposition, as to draw a settlement, the court was required to hear the matter exhaustively, and then only could make the settlement for referring the matter. Now, in these two landmark cases, the court decided that it is not necessary for the court to draw a settlement, and after the parties show and give their consent for coming forward to opt for an ADR mechanism, the court can directly make a brief note in the case and reference can be made for ADR. Now, to conclude, I would only like to say that the objectives of commerce today are different from when the legal and justice system came into existence. The flaws in the Indian judicial system call for a better system, a quicker, more transparent system, as these flaws hinder the objective to be achieved by the performance of commerce. The legislative had also identified the issues around the judicial system, and through legislation, the efforts of the legislation of making litigation faster and quicker are also failing, as we have seen. The only solution we have now is, and are only left with, is promoting the application of ADR in dispute resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed an insightful session, and I now invite all the students to post their questions in the comment box itself so that sir can answer any of the queries. Any questions from any of the students? They can even switch on their mics.
Good evening, sir. I am Manthan Sharma from semester 7.
Yes, Manthan.
Sir, I would like to ask that how far do we think that we have accepted ADR as a mechanism? Because the number of cases pending in courts and the continuous litigation process which are going on, people are still, whenever any matter happens, the people just say that I'll see you in court. So it is more of a practice now. So do you think that India is still far behind to accept ADR as a process to resolve disputes?
Well, now that we have ADR system in place and there are rules which have been framed by the legislature now, and a lot of ADR systems is being now developed in India, such as arbitration, mediation and conciliation, and the provisions are already made. The difficulty is that we do not have the expertise, or we do not have experts in deciding the cases in ADR system. There are certain rules which are framed, which are outdated, and because of the dynamism involved in judicial process or in deciding cases, there is still a delay in deciding cases under ADR system. So ADR system can only be successful only we see that in comparison to courts, the ADR mechanism also provides immediate redressal to the parties. So the efforts have already started. There is the new rules, the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 introduced arbitration, conciliation. There are mediation rules which have been framed by the legislature. So certain mechanism is already put in place by the legislature, and the courts in these landmark decisions have also come forward by directing the government to frame rules so that it becomes easier for the parties to opt for ADR system rather than going to the court. So court, we already know, we need not talk about how the system of court works. There is a lot of pendency in the courts, and therefore it becomes very difficult for a person to achieve to achieve the results. And therefore, I guess things are getting into place, and I'm sure the improvement would take place soon, and we would be effectively using ADR mechanism.
Any more questions from any of the participants?
मालूम था मेरे को
Good afternoon, sir. I wanted to ask a question. So basically, this is an hypothetical situation. So recently we talked about that there are a bunch of cases which are pending in the court. So, sir, there can be a situation where a committee is set up by the government in which they bifurcate the cases in which there is no arbitration agreement or there is no talk about arbitration, rather than the court themselves refer those cases to arbitration, because court no longer, the case is going on from a very long time. So in order to reduce the burden of the courts, a committee is set up for arbitration where arbitration agreement or no talks of arbitration is going on. This is totally a hypothetical situation and a hypothetical question, but I just wanted to know your opinion, sir.
Yeah. Well, Palak, see, everybody, all the stakeholders involved in judicial system, they are trying to come with a lot of modalities to resolve this issue of pendency of cases. The government, as you know, is the biggest litigator in the court, and therefore, it is in fact very important for the government itself to come forward and draw a mechanism so that the litigation can be reduced. Now, if we talk about courts, the courts definitely refer certain cases. There is a mediation center in the High Court, which is permanently available, and we have permanent mediators whose services are taken by the parties once they agree for mediation. In the High Court, there is a system which is evolved where the MSCT cases are en masse decided in Lok Adalats. Now, all these stakeholders in MSCT cases are called for a meeting. The cases are identified where there is no legal issues are involved. They can be, decided in Lok Adalats. Likewise, when you talk about arbitration, it is very much necessary for the parties to agree to arbitration mechanism. As to get into an arbitration, the precedence is an agreement. So usually what happens is, if one of the party agrees for arbitration, the other doesn't agree, because they feel that firstly, there is a shortage of arbitrators. Secondly, there is no experts. Thirdly, there could be a situation when the two parties are not able to find a person who can arbitrate between their dispute. So the mechanism is not so easy. So therefore, there is an effort by everyone, and we have to keep our fingers crossed. We have to have a positive view that certainly the ADR system would be taken over and the pendency in the courts would be reduced by switching over to ADR mechanism.
Sir, my name is Ayush Bhandari. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Ayush. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Sir, I just had this question that when we talk about ADR in corporate matters, especially, so how far is this effective in corporate matters? Because, sir, when we talk about companies, they tend to gain baggage over, tons of motions, briefs, and all those other things. So I think companies may or may not be ready for this tons of baggages around them and beyond their contractual limits, actually. So how far is this effective in corporate matters, especially?
Yes, Ayush, see, there is a provision in place under the Company Acts. I just mentioned the rules that it is for the parties to come forward. You see, it depends what is the kind of dispute involved or what is the dispute between the parties. It is always uh, beneficial for any party in dispute to approach themselves or through an intervention of the court to come to a settlement. Basically, when a party sees that the case is going to prolong for many years and there is no decision which is likely to come, and looking to the market and looking to the stake involved in the case, there are certain disputes which can be decided through arbitration or through ADR mechanism. So not necessary the corporates are sometimes tied up with their own set of mechanism. The court also facilitates not necessarily the entire dispute, but some portion of the dispute which the parties themselves feel can be decided by outside the court amongst themselves. I think that's a healthy proposition. The mechanism has to be brought in, and the corporates have to come forward if they want an early redressal or early results of the cases.
So we have one more question from one of our students, Gaurav Sharma.
Yes.
His question reads as follows. Sir, as you mentioned before that confidentiality is of essence, these confidentiality is only confined to the award or is the issue as a whole?
Confidentiality, when I spoke of confidentiality, in mediation, confidentiality is of prime importance. You see, confidentiality is a corollary to trust building. When a mediation is involved and the parties trust a mediator, which is so appointed, they would only be able to speak about their story or about the entire episode to the mediator if they feel that the mediator is not able to reveal it to anybody. A mediator, when facilitates the parties to come to a settlement, there are certain gray areas where a mediator listens to the entire thing and prioritize what are the disputes. You see, when you talk of disputes among family members, there are otherwise, besides disputes, there are other emotional issues involved. There are other ancillary issues which are involved, which can be creased out by the mediator. Now, confidentiality here means that the mediator would maintain the confidentiality. They would not speak about anything, and it is for the parties as well not to reveal these issues outside or in any other proceedings. So it is as a whole, in the process as a whole, the confidentiality element is involved and must be maintained in order to arrive at a settlement.
Any more questions from any of the students? So So, sir, I personally have a question for you. As we are known of the Booz Allen case, the court said that arbitration is only accessible to some of the matters, including the commercial disputes and the civil disputes, and not to patents or copyrights, etc. So, sir, I've read in some of the article that IPR matters too can be taken up in arbitration if they are in persona and not in rem. So,
Yes.
sir, I wanted to know your views and to further elaborate the statement.
Well, you see, IPR disputes, you see, there are defined disputes as in under the judgment which has come in Afro Infrastructure. The court has tried to bifurcate the disputes which can be gone for ADR mechanisms and which cannot be gone for an ADR mechanism. There is a bifurcation if you refer to that judgment of 2010. Now, you see, there are disputes which need a judicial process. You know, a judicial process requires a decision in rem, and therefore, you know, when such a dispute takes place, it is ordinarily proper and appropriate that it is decided by a court of law and not by an ADR mechanism. So I believe that sooner or later, if there are certain disputes which can, you know, be resolved and freezed out by way of ADR mechanism, I mean that will be a good idea, because ultimately, you see, what we suffer in the normal judicial process is the time factor, the cost, the other taxing environment. So if it is involved in patents and IPR matters also, that would be very welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. We have one more question from one of our students, Ms. Devanshi Desai. It reads as follow. I would like to ask whether the arbitral awards be considered parallel to judicial orders or awards, or can they be considered governing law in such matters?
Definitely, we say that, you know, arbitral awards, as I've read those provisions, that they are just like they can be executed like a decree. You see, arbitrators are, in fact, the judicial officers who are retired, who are out of the judicial appointments. So they are definitely, the awards are in the form of the judgments which are delivered by the courts and are executable by like decrees. So they are parallel to the judicial orders. I mean, whatever way they are passed, only the mechanism is different. The award, the arbitration is where the institution, like the court, where the procedures and the rules are very stringent, are done away with in the arbitration process. So it is only the mechanism which is changed, but they can be executed like decrees of the court.
In case of no further questions, sir, I think we can end the session now. So it was a delight to have you as a judge for National Client Counseling Competition back in 2019. And it is a delight to have you today as well.
Thank you so much. Naz, it was wonderful being with all of you. And I'm sure this webinar must have given you some insight about ADR. And I'm looking forward to come back again sometime soon.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.